All right, so some people are not going to like today's episode, letting you know right now. Pension without purpose is purgatory. Let me say that again. Pension without purpose is purgatory. Now, some of y'all don't know what a pension is. Pension means after you've worked for a long time and you're retired, you've walked away, now they're going to start paying you for the rest of your life and you can live out. You can live your life perfectly, no problem. And some people, they aren't retired, but money is no longer an issue in your life, you're fine. But without a purpose, it's purgatory. So to break down what purgatory is just a place of awaiting. It's like a waiting room, so to speak, in this world. In the context of the word, there's heaven and there's hell, and I believe purgatory is the thing that you wait in before you get to go. It's like a waiting room at a doctor's office, So a pension without a purpose is purgatory. Now, maybe you're younger and you're waiting till that, like, I'm just going to do this. I'm not going to like it, but I'm going to keep doing this until I finally get to the point where I don't have to worry about maybe money or maybe it's a house or worry about anything anymore. But people are forgetting about their purpose. I talked to actually a lot of retirees and people on the verge of retiring. And it's a scary thing sometimes because some people are fine money-wise. It's like, what do I do now? So we're going to dive into that just a little bit today. And for you young people watching this, and I know maybe even older people looking at me like, well, Luke, come on, you're not even 40 years old. What do you know about retirement? If you are new here, I have retired. So I retired from being a pro athlete for 12 years. I retired. Still have thought about going back to it. Still the option's open. The window's open for another 2 or 3 more years. But I just had I felt that feeling of like you've had this purpose, this thing you've done every day. And for some of you, you're not retiring from a job. Some of you guys are just retiring for something that really defined who you were. Some of you guys are just getting out of a relationship. And your whole life was kind of tied into what that person's life was. And now you've stepped out of that and now you're into this world on your own. It's like, well, what's my purpose? Some of you have had a hobby that you've been doing for a long time and you're like, it's finally time to stop. I've been playing the guitar a long time. It's time to walk away and change and do something else. And in that period of leaving something and then going to the next thing, it's just like this kind of lost feeling. And it's weird to feel that way. And it's very scary to admit it. Especially when I walked away from basketball, like, okay, I'm 32. I've done all this. And when people ask, well, why'd you leave it? I'm trying to explain, well, I just feel this calling to do something more, to reach more people, to help more people. I can have a bigger impact, I think, if I just give it a shot. And I'm going to do my best to try to have success in that, And I just remember that feeling of doing that. And I was just thinking to myself of like, if I had no idea, if I would have just walked away, never having to worry about money again, and just like, okay, I can just finally travel or do whatever. That wasn't my situation. But if that was, I'd be like, okay, now what? Because some people, it's really challenging for me to believe this. I haven't said it out loud a lot, but now I actually really can see it. Some people have never traveled for more than a month in a row, like 1 month nonstop. And even less people have traveled for 2 months nonstop. But I'm going to tell you something about month number 3. Okay, because I did this before I started full-time traveling. I had a season that was a 4-month off season. So I'd used 3 months to travel. After 3 months of traveling, you get to this point of just like, it's something around the 3-month mark. I don't know what it is. It's like right around there, 9, 10, 12 weeks, where you're just like, okay, what am I going to do now? Like, and it's hard for people to understand that. Like, there were times when I was in, for example, you guys who followed me in Bali, I was living in Bali for a year and a half. And living in Bali, when I wasn't sure what I was going to do, like YouTube wasn't working, things weren't working the way I wanted to from a financial standpoint, and like trying to find out what's the next move, what's the next chess piece, what I really was trying to discover was like, well, okay, what am I going to do? I just would ride around on my scooter 4, 5, 6 hours. But the thing is, my North Star, I think you always got to have that North Star. And if you're leaving from one job to another or one hobby to another or something else, there's always a North Star there, or something there's some part of the job that you did or that you do that you would still do even if you weren't paid. Maybe it's helping people, maybe it's showing up, maybe it's answering questions, there's something there. But there has to be some kind of purpose. So we're going to dive into, in this following week on Friday, we're going to do another call. We're going to have another call. These have been so fun to me, these little master classes and flash classes. We're going to be diving into it on what's next. We're going to plan your next. We're going to get clear on what's next for you and then the action steps you can do. We're going to dive into that this Friday, and there's going to be a link in the description below. But I have a question for you. For what reason do you think these actors and these like big time pro athletes, why do they still do things? Like, why is Charles Barkley, why is Shaq, a guy who's worth $500 million, why does he still show up every single day and during the NBA season and do their show? Like, why is Tom Brady now signing a 20-year deal, I think it is, or a 10-year deal to work as a like a sportscaster? You know, how come these athletes, these actors who have millions of dollars, why do they not just, finally they got 50 million, they're set for the rest of their life and their children's lives and all that, why don't they just walk away? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought that maybe they've realized that a pension without purpose is purgatory? Like, I'm telling you right now, there's people who are young right now, and it's hard for us to imagine, but like there's gonna be a day, you know, for a lot of people that maybe you're gonna retire and you're gonna have money and you're not gonna have to worry about money anymore. Just not spending it all, but you're gonna have enough for if you have a set budget and everything kind of goes according to plan. But now what? Because that's what the dream is. I know when you're younger, it's like, we gotta grind, we gotta figure it out, but there's gonna be a point where you don't have to do that. The money's gonna be there for a lot of people. A lot of people won't have it, but a lot of people will. And there's people who are there already, and they are miserable inside. Let me say that again. They are miserable inside. Miserable. They're more bitter than they were when they were showing up for work every day at a job that they didn't like. Have you ever thought about that? Like, there has to be some kind of purpose. There has to be something. You know, there were times where I probably the most recent thing that I did was I started like a little school to help people to learn English. And I made it a very low-cost school. And like, I'm talking about extremely low cost. I probably should have given it away for free, but I'm like, people need to make an investment in something, even if it's just 50 cents, because it makes them pay attention more. And it was for low-cost people, for people who wanted to pay, who didn't have the money. And I did it, and people signed up for it, and money came in from it. But no one took the program. No one took the program. Like, I think the last time I looked, there were 2 new people who had signed up, and between the 2 of them, out of the 20 lessons that are there, 2 lessons have been done, and that's it. And for me, I'm like, well, I finally sold this thing to some people, and they got it. I didn't know who they were. They just randomly purchased it, and they didn't take any programs. They didn't learn any English, obviously, if they only took two lessons. And it made me feel this lack of, like, my purpose is to help them to learn it. The money is a bonus, which is great. And it's not the first time. I've ran other things in the past where people have paid good money and not showed up. And it brought this feeling of like, wow, I should be happy because all these people are here. These people signed up, but they're not taking anything. They're not learning. And I want to have an impact. How can I have an impact if they just pay me and they don't take it? And I can imagine for someone else who has something, there has to be that purpose. There has to be that sense of purpose. Like, what are you getting up early for? Like, what are you going to bed and just like wanting to fix? Like, so many of us, so many people don't realize what their purpose is. And I think everyone has 2 purposes. Truly, I really believe it. When someone says they don't know what their purpose is, I'm like, that's it. That is your purpose. Everyone's first purpose is to figure out what they were put here to do. And then your second is to go out and fulfill that. But you can't go out and fulfill it until you've done the first one. So you have to figure out what the first one is. That's your purpose. You're living in it right now for so many people. And it's going to keep changing as you get older. Like, fun changes. The example I used to use all the time is, you know, back when I was a pro athlete and I would just be traveling and then going back home to the States for like 2 or 3 weeks to train, maybe a little bit longer, and then going back to basketball. Fun changed very rapidly. And I got to see it like this. Fun is like winning a game, working hard, like being part of the community. But then as soon as the basketball season finished and I get to and I'm traveling, and I'm traveling full time, Fun is going out. It's not sleeping. It's like going up, like for me, my routine was like, we wake up around 9 or 10. We edit the vlog till 12 or 1. We go out and film that next day's vlog. We film that until around 7 or 8. Then we go home and we edit from about 8 to maybe 10 or 11, a little bit. Then we go out and party from about 11 until about 5 or 6. Then sleep from 6 to 10. Wake up, finish editing, finish around 1. Go out, and it was just a cycle just like this for 2 months. And that was fun. And then as soon as that finished, and I had to fly back home to the States, fun became playing games at a table at 9 o'clock at night with my family. Playing with my little niece, that became fun. Like playing Barbies, that was fun. That wasn't fun in the weeks prior to that. And that wouldn't be fun going into the upcoming basketball season. Because it changes, things change. Like you're changing, I'm changing. Some of you guys are completely different than you were 2 years ago. And it's gonna shock you, but in 3 years, you're probably gonna be very different than you are now. Good or bad. So the question is like, it's like, where do you find that purpose? Like, where do you discover it? Where do I start? Where do I begin to find the purpose? Oh, there's so many mosquitoes out here. Where do I begin to search for that purpose? And I've heard something. I heard it the other day. I wasn't going to talk about it now, but maybe someone needs to hear it. Instead of maybe what, change the what to who. Like phrase a question like that. Now we're going to dive into it this Friday, 7 o'clock. I believe we're going to do it this Friday. There might be, if there's something that changes like it has in the past, all of you who sign up for it, you'll get an email for it about the change, because I'm doing a lot of trips at the moment. And some places I go here in Mexico, there is no service. There is no Wi-Fi. But I really want to help people get clear on that. I think it gives you something to run towards. I think so many that feeling of like not knowing what to do, I've realized is we just don't have something to run towards. We don't know what question to type into Google. You know, we don't know what YouTube video to watch. So we're gonna get clear on that, on what's coming up next for you. Everyone's gonna have something different. And I'm excited to help you out. I wanted to record this today. I was literally sitting at home and I was like, I got so many thoughts that are coming through my mind. I need to share this and I need to do it today. And I always have so many in my mind and I have so many notes of things that I want to share. And sometimes it's like, well, which one is being the loudest that needs to be shared? Because the loudest one isn't the one I need to share. It's the one that's being the most quiet. The one that I haven't really thought about and I have to try to articulate it on the fly like this. But I think when you can understand that a pension without a purpose is purgatory, I think it changes the way you do things. It changes the way you look at things. It changes the way that you realize that everything you're doing right now, everything you're doing in your life right now, there's some kind of purpose. Maybe, I don't like my job and I get paid, but it fulfills some kind of purpose. Gives you some kind of routine. You get a community of people there. You get money to do what you love, even if you're in a dichotomy situation of doing something you hate to get what you love. But when that's taken away, or you change things, or you find yourself in the middle of leaving a relationship, or you find yourself in the middle of changing a hobby, as we said before, that can be a very scary feeling. And the longer you feel like you don't have a purpose, the more you're like, what am I doing here? And it brings up this spiral of questions that you start asking yourself that lead you down places that are actually really dark and scary. And I find myself sometimes in that spiral that I got to break myself out of. Like, who is it that I have to talk to? Who do I know that's doing what I want? Like, it's different things. It's never like if you're not getting the answers you want, it's usually because, number one, you don't know the answers to the question. You haven't asked the right person the right question, or you're just asking the completely wrong question. And 9 times out of 10, when I talk to people, when I work with people, the number one thing is that they're asking themselves a very low quality question. What's wrong with me is a very low quality question. Why do I always make this mistake is a very low quality question. Where's the gift in this moment? What is this moment showing me? What have I done in the past that has prepared me for this moment? These are higher quality questions. And as you can up the quality of the questions that you ask yourself, more enhanced questions, it brings you to go down places in your mind. It causes you to think of situations in your past that fuel you to do what it is that you really want to do. But all of that starts with a higher quality question. I think it was Tony Robbins that said something along the lines of the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. Like the quality of your questions. And there's questions that you'll be asked that you've never been asked before. Some of you have never thought about being in a tough situation and having someone come to you and say, well, where's the gift in that moment? Like, what was the greatest thing that thing that horrible happened to you that you've been stuck behind? What did it show you about yourself? You know, when you start to go down these route of questions, it makes you think so different. It makes you change everything. So with that being said, I am excited to speak to you guys this upcoming Friday. I believe it's upcoming Friday at 7. We're going to have it. There was a storm here the last few weeks that we've had these calls. So some of you guys will just do it on a audio, or I won't have the video going on Zoom. But we're gonna dive into it and help you guys to discover, like, not only what's next, but once you realize, like, oh my gosh, that's what I need to do. It just becomes like, oh yeah, of course it's what I need to do. It's one of those feelings, not like a mind blown, but just like, of course that's what I need to do. I knew that. So I look forward to speaking with you. It's time for me to have some hotcakes on this beautiful Sunday, and you guys can join the link below. The link will allow you to see what time it is, and you'll be able to maybe answer a question. I think there's a question you get to answer, and it kind of help me to prepare so I can kind of add some things to what we're going to talk about on Friday. So I look forward to it. Enjoy your Sunday. Stay safe and stay hydrated. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.